Maybe
This
it'll
call
work.
is now being recorded.
Oh, yep, it worked.
All right. So, now it's working. That's good. So, welcome to the first official episode of the Kid Coggins Radio Show podcast. And today I'm interviewing Echoing Sunset about her third single, which is called The Start. It was released Friday, well, technically Saturday morning at midnight. So go buy it and stream it right now or just check it out on YouTube. So anyways, hello Jesse, good morning.
Good morning.
So kind of tell me the story about how the song came about. I mean, I know that you've told me it before and it came about over a course of a few years.
That it did. So everything kind of started when I first started college, my very first semester. So I was kind of out in the world by myself for the first time and terrified. And I had a lot of anxiety, and I'm not really sure why this happened or what happened. But one of my teachers I was like terrified of. And I couldn't figure this out, and he honestly didn't deserve me being terrified of him. He kind of went out of his way to help me quite a bit. Like, I would have failed his class had it not been for him going out of his way. But the fact remained that I was terrified of him. And so time went on, and I left his class, and it kind of became this obsession of wanting these answers as to why I was so scared of this guy. And I thought I had kind of let it go and moved on, and then I started figuring out through some conversations with another friend of mine who's dealing with some stuff of her own, it could have been just me having anxiety. And so fast forward all the way to last year, 6 years later, and I'm figuring these things out, and I'm having these conversations with my friend and going, oh, your thing sounds like my thing, and this sounds familiar. Like, I think I know what happened. I still don't have the full answers. And I swear this sounds like a weird dream, but it wasn't. But I went to a Mercy Me concert a few months after my friend and I had these conversations about anxiety. And so I'm sitting in this Mercy Me concert in a row of teachers from all throughout school except college. And as I'm sitting in this row of teachers, I'm thinking about this situation and kind of going, I kind of have figured this out. And more than that, he went out of his way to help me so much. And I don't ever remember saying thank you because I was so caught up in everything else that was going on and so caught up in my own anxiety and this weird fear and trying to figure out why this fear was happening logically, which wasn't working out for me. And I never said thank you for anything that he did for me. And so I was kind of like talking to God about this as I'm at this concert. And God was like, you do remember he has a Facebook, right? And I'm like, oh, God, you actually want me to? Yes. So I decided like the next morning I would send him a message on Facebook and just, like I said, just say thank you. And I did that. And he responded, which was really cool. Like, we had a little bit of a conversation. But having that conversation on my end, it humbled me and allowed me to come back and, actually be grateful for what had happened and actually express that. And it broke a lot of chains of that fear that was still holding on, even though I didn't realize it. And the cool part was, this wasn't only a moment that was important for me, because when I sent that message saying thank you, he responded and said that my message had come in a time when he really needed encouragement because he was kind of feeling a bit irrelevant and a bit inconsequential himself. And so God used that moment for me, yes, but also for me to encourage somebody that I was so afraid of for so long. So it really allowed me to separate the actual person from this other, monster ball of anxiety I had built up in my head. And so I'm talking to God about this later, and I'm journaling, and I'm absolutely elated. Honestly, when the start released, it released on June 3rd, and June 5th would have been a year to the day that conversation happened, so it was kind of really cool timing. I didn't plan it that way. But I was sitting there, I'm still celebrating this a year later, but I was elated because, I felt free for the first time, and, God had used me to bring encouragement to him, too, and that was just the coolest thing ever. And I'm sitting there talking to God, and I just stop mid-journal, mid-prayer, and start laughing. And I just kind of went, God, you saw that 6 years ago, didn't you? You knew what was going to happen. And so that kind of conversation back and forth with me and with God turned into this half chorus of I need answer, or I didn't start with that part. I started with the end of the chorus, actually, the you're here now and you were then at the start of it. And so over the next month or so, I just kind of started writing this song, telling this story of actually kind of building it up from the ground. The very first verse, I'm singing about being overwhelmed and not admitting it. And, that's kind of what was happening that semester. And so it kind of goes into this almost self-critical, me demanding answers and God asking for faith and asking me to trust him. And that is not just something that happened in that particular situation with the teacher, but it's kind of how I unfortunately live my life. So, it kind of changes things kind of for the self-critical, but at the same time, I can take so much comfort in knowing that anything I'm walking through, God is right there with me, for one thing, but has already been there, has already seen the outcome, and is walking me through it, and that has always been such a comfort to me. So yeah, that's the whole story of the song, my new single, The Start, that just came out.
Yeah, and I have to say, when you sent me the demo, I mean, you can tell the difference with the release version and the demo. I mean, in the demo, it was like your vocals it was like there was two of you when you were singing Hard to Admit It. It was like there was two of you.
Yeah, that was actually a recording mistake. My producer had me do, studio recording is not like, you don't sing it one mic, one take a lot of the time. It takes hours, and sometimes you're singing one sentence or one phrase several different times, is trying to get it as close to perfection as humanly possible. So that was accidentally a couple of different takes on that particular phrase that you left in there.
Yeah, well, that's pretty good. Of course, your previous two singles, Habit to Break and Safety, have gotten what I would call a pretty good amount of views. And I think I was the first one to view The Start or listen to it on YouTube, because when I searched it up, it had no views on it. And by the way, I do have a playlist with your music on my YouTube channel. So
thank you.
For those of you, yep, you're welcome. For those of you that are tuning into this, all future music that Echoing Sunset releases, I will be putting it into that playlist. So if you don't want to spend money downloading it, or you want to listen to all of her songs in one place, I'll get you covered. And of course, I'll probably, I don't know, I'll be updating it and stuff, when new stuff comes out. I'll probably put it in the description or something, so that you all can go listen to her music and one playlist. And like I said, of course, I'll be adding to it. And I'm so glad that I was able to get this interview, try to kick off this podcast officially. And of course, just a reminder that this will only be available on YouTube and nowhere else. So this is where you're going to find all the interviews I do. I have a couple other interviews planned sometime soon, but I haven't really gotten a scheduled time on that. But I've mentioned, to a couple radio people I know about it, so probably going to be interviewing them soon. So stay tuned for that. And once again, thanks for tuning in to this very first episode of the Kid Coggins Radio Show podcast. And I will catch you soon with another podcast. And once again, thank you, Jesse, a.k.a. Echoing Sunset, for joining me.
For interviewing me
this morning. And there'll be more to come in the future. And so, yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. And I'll talk to you soon. See you. Bye.
This call is now being recorded.
Okay, it just did a double thing.
Yeah, I think it went off and then came back on.
Yeah, let me cut it off now.